Welcome, everyone. Hello and happy Tuesday. It's time for another 2DogDigs live Hall Pass. H-A-U-L, Hall Pass. H-A-U-L. And today is part of January, and it's the new year. We're talking about all sorts of things to think about, which you really should think about year-round. But this video is going to be focusing on a bunch of different categories and things that you should think about as you get to the beginning of the year. So you got a whole new year coming. You got lots of stuff that you can talk about. And of course, there's only one person that we can think about to talk about this all with. And that is our fellow reseller, Lazy Carl.
Hey, Craig. Hey, everyone.
Who is obviously, he's going to lose his lazy name soon because he's got to start listing a lot more, and you can't be lazy and listing. Yeah. Maybe that's one of your goals this year is to change your name to used to be Lazy Reseller or something.
Oh God, I hope not. That's my main gig.
Yeah, I could. And Rick is the napping reseller, and he's actually not napping. He just didn't want to go on the show. His hair is a mess. He sent me to buy shampoo for him today.
Sweet.
Me. Shampoo. I literally played the old man card. I did a thing like I used to be embarrassed when my mom would do. I literally stood in the Walmart in the shampoo section, and with people walking around the aisles, I said, "My husband has sent his bald husband to buy shampoo. What do I do?" And I actually had people going, "Oh, what kind of hair does he have?" Like,
oh, really? You didn't have a specific.
I got some recommendations, and then I bought a shampoo. So hopefully it's something that he will use, because hell, I ain't gonna ever use it. So let me say hello to everyone who has joined us here. Rick is here. He'll be commenting in the comments. Tina, who couldn't make it, but she'll see the replay. Lisa's here. Hey, and Charmaine, thanks for joining us here. Kendra, Janet, Susan. Hey, Kathy. Sherry, Michael, Louette, Marianne, Heather and Bob, Diana. Let's see. What's we got here? Jennifer. I hope I'm not saying Mr. Dax, Santa. It's pouring in Windsor. Yeah, it's snow and rain today. It's been a really crappy day here. It's frosty in Winnipeg. Hello, Fish Fanatic.
Hey.
That name. That's a great name. Mr. Greg is watching from a computer today instead of a TV, maybe with Kathy. Vintage Treasure by the Sea. That's a name I don't recognize. Thank you for popping in to see us here. And Elisa. Tommy. Hey, thanks for joining us, Tommy. Maher. Yeah.
Well,
Who else have I got? Candace as well. Don't want to miss anybody. Hopefully I didn't miss anybody. Thanks to everybody here who has joined us, especially those who support us in the Kennel Club. If you want to join us here on YouTube for $3 a month, we hopefully will give you enough tips to make you that $3 or save you that $3 in your reselling journey and give you some fun on the way, because as Rick and I always say, we try to put the F in fun for fun and thrifting, because otherwise you'd just be thrifting, and that's really not something you need to do. You tuned in for his hair. I'm sorry about that. So that's what we're here to talk about today, though. Today we're going to focus on reselling tips to hopefully make that happen a little more for 2024 versus what we've done in the past. So I think the easiest thing to start off with is to say to, like, Carl, is there something from 2023 that you did that you're just like, I am going to try my damnedest not to keep doing this in 2024?
Not list? How about that? Just pile stuff up, buy things and never put them up, move things around my house so they never, feels like I'm doing work and not
so lots of things.
How about not tripping over stuff in the hallway to get my supplies? Nothing makes me angrier when I do that trip. Yes. So that's a surprise question. I wasn't ready for that.
No, I know you weren't ready for it. I have to give you something surprising to answer, because otherwise everything would be like, I don't want it to seem canned. Well, no, I just happened to think about it. It's like, well, what is something, and it's true. I think in a lot of cases, and a lot of people on the side here are all going to say, It's all, there's more than one thing that you're gonna have to try and do. And I mean, for me, if I had to say I don't want to do this in 2023, I didn't list as much as I really should have been. So I really need to get listing more, because I could see in months like April and May and June how down my sales were because I wasn't listing. And I've got strategies that I'm trying to get into now that have actually helped me quite a bit on stuff like that. So, and we'll talk about some of them today.
If you want the 5-minute show, the answer would be list more.
List more, yeah.
Never done. Bye, everyone. See you later.
Bob cleaned his office because he can't list since 2 p.m. So he's been just cleaning his office. Sam tried selling postcards, but it did not work. That's actually a really good thing. Because that's a really good point too. There's things you might have tried in 2023 that you're like, I know, I'm going to do this. And it's like, I tried Poshmark and no, that is not for me. Or I tried shopping at a different thrift store than I ever do. Or I tried only shopping on these days. Or I tried not shopping or anything. That's actually a big challenge. Yeah. Is you have to have tons of postcards to do that.
You need a lot.
To have constant sales, because a lot of times they're small. Right. And that's actually one of the things that some people deal with is a lot of small things, a lot of lower price goods. You need a lot of them to go for something like that. And actually, Dawn is a postcard person and she's in the same way. She can't get enough postcards right now.
And for me, it's like, I don't mind them because I did the work ages ago. And I actually had 3 sales of postcards this weekend. I think they're all over 15 American each. And I probably pay like 10 cents or 25 cents at most for the postcards. So yeah, once you know how to do it quickly, but yeah, you also, like, I think it's key. You need to enjoy what you're doing. Otherwise you'll just won't do it. Like, I hate clothing. I don't care that I see 1,000 people looking through the racks of clothing. I will not do clothing. Right. But, I'll do postcards. So each.
Well, maybe you'll do clothing if we do a listing challenge over a month. We might, but it would be a very specific thing we'd be asking for you to do. Like, you never know. And you never know. You may even have the clothes in your own closet that you just take a picture of.
Well, I did sell one of my old ties. Does that count?
Well, yeah, there's clothing. Kendra needs to start a draft bank. Yeah, that's actually a really smart thing to think about. Yeah, like, start doing something where you're just putting stuff into your draft folders. We actually did it today over the past 4 or 5 days. Rick and I have been working on stuff, and I know I'm lucky enough to have a partner to work with on this. So Rick does a lot of the all the photos, but I'm doing all the listing and researching and everything. And we actually, I think in the past day and a half, we'll have listed over 50 items to eBay and Etsy, as well as cross-listing items to our Etsy platform from using Crosslist Magic. But yeah, building those drafts and then being able to launch them, even if you build them and launch them one a day, it can be something that the algorithms, the spooky algorithms, are going, oh, this person's still trying to sell on us. So they might push you up a little bit. Adrian's saying drafts are the bomb. So I don't know about that. Okay, Don. Charmaine says no clothing or glassware. Yeah, and again, that's something that if you've experienced things like that in the past, you may not want to try it, or you may just are unsure of it. You never know what you're going to be looking for. Well, today we're going to try and cover 6 or 7 kind of general topics. And so I'm going to show you the topics we're going to try and go through. And what we're going to talk about may cross from one to the other and back and forth, but we're going to talk about goal setting. We're going to talk about inventory a little bit about research, a little bit about pricing strategies, a little bit about listing strategies, which is kind of pricing, but it's just a little bit different. That drafting is perfect in that area. A little bit about shipping, a little bit about shopping. I feel like I should be singing that. And then finally, a little bit about connections. And you'll see what we're talking about in connections. So the first one that we had on there was literally goals. So we're talking about the goals that you should set up as a reseller for each year as you go forward. And when we're part of that is like what you don't want to do as of 2023. You want to move into 2024. And I'll tell you, these, again, they may come under different categories that we're going to talk about today, but the goals that I'm setting up, I'm going to be trying to make sure that my goals are to list every single week, to make sure that there's listings going every week. I'm going to try to make sure that we're cross-listing as much as we possibly can, especially with crosslist magic, which, again, I'm going to talk about that again a little bit later. I'm also going to trying to use Instagram, and not only for like education like we tried to do here, but also for promotion of stuff that I've got on stores. And that's one of the things that crossless magic actually can help me do, is promoting an item that I might have for sale that somebody may come in and look for. So those are 3 big ones. And I think my 4th one, which kind of is like leaning towards the very front, is to getting rid of a bunch of the stuff that's in my profit mountain and focusing on higher return purchases. So focusing on buying things that are going to get me hopefully $20 or $30. So I'm not really talking percentages, because if I buy something for $20 and it sells for $40, that's a $20 profit. But I don't want to be buying stuff for $3 and $4 and $5 to sell for $10 and $15. Stuff that once all of the profits, all the fees come out, I've worked on all this. I did the shopping, did the listing, did the packing, did the shipping, did the photos and I made $4. I know it sounds good to a lot of people, and this is, I think, one of the biggest fallacies that a lot of resellers do, or I see a lot of people doing, especially shopping when I'm in a thrift store. A lot of people buying $3.99, $4.99, $5.99, $6.99 items and selling them for $9.99 and $10.99 and $12.99, like sort of things. So buying things that they are not making a good amount of money on, they're making $2 or $3 or $4 on. So that's my goal, is to not be doing that at all, is to focus on bigger returns out of something like that. What do you think, Carl?
Yeah, I think like sometimes the temptation is when you're at the stores just to buy something to buy it. I think, you have to also it's helpful to know yourself, and that can take a lot of experimentation of what you actually enjoy doing. Because, what gets me excited is those bigger value sales. But like we're talking about postcards, I don't mind those too, because those take me 5 seconds. Like, I think there's probably like 2 minutes involved in each one of those sales for me for postcards. So it's hard to come up with blanket statements. The issue, over the years I have found is that if I don't enjoy, for me, my personality type, if I don't enjoy doing something, I just won't do it. And sometimes that's when piling happens. It's like, well, I know this makes money, I'm just going to keep buying and buying it. Or you come up with an idea that looks great on paper, but doesn't actually work when you try it. I think if we're talking about goals, I know the temptation is to look at just the number of listings you have, but I think that can be a mistake, because then you can be putting up a bunch of garbage. But also with those listing numbers, I find, like for me at least, over years, my store has accumulated a lot of garbage in it. And so it makes the number of items I have big, but a lot of that might never sell. Which, am I going to take it out of the store? Maybe, maybe not. But it kind of can skew your numbers. I think the other big thing is, if you're going to do goals, and your goals are, monetary goals, you really should know your numbers. Like my margin, is about 50%. So if I want to make $500 a week, I know I have to sell $1,000 worth of stuff. And sometimes we don't want to. And if I'm going to sell $1,000 of stuff, I know my average sales this, I have to sell this many items, which means I need to list this many items. Blah blah. The math is there, but sometimes we don't want to look at that because it gets depressing, right?
Yeah, it gets depressing. It gets scary, because you're like, all of a sudden you're overwhelmed. Like, oh my god, if I don't list. So that's why even when we try and do listing challenges in the craft group, we try and make sure that their challenges are more like list 1 or 2 things. It's never like we want to see you list 25 things this week, or because that's the challenge. I just like you, our store on eBay, I have not been able to get it back up over 1,000 in over a year.
Yeah.
And there's a part of me that's my goal is I need to get 1,000 listings.
That number, yeah, because the number is black and white, you know.
But yeah, I got 150 things that are crap in my store.
Yeah, or if you're putting up, like, if you're trying to get from 800 to 1,000, it's like, I don't care how much this is selling for $10. I don't care. I get that temptation. I've fallen into that trap before. But I can tell you, what makes me happy is when you see those $50, $100 sales.
That's exactly
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you get a little happiness from that $5, $10, or maybe $15 sale, but let's be honest.
I listed 8 things because I didn't want to go outside.
That I get too. Yeah.
Well, that's actually a good thing.
Yeah.
Rick Stevens said a simple goal would be to list one a day, or even to try and start building a draft a day or something along those lines. I know Adrian builds a number of drafts, and then he spends time taking photos of like 10, and then takes breaks, does other things, then another day does some more photos and does like something like that. So for him, his goal is 10. He's set a goal of 10 things a week.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think you have to experiment too. Like for this year, work for me is doing when I get the item in. I should have shown this one because I think it's a $15 item. But anyways, I'm a hypocrite. What can I say? I got this in a baggie with a whole bunch of other stuff, right? Like if I list something like this little doll furniture thing, for me, I found it's best to do the draft first. I do 5 drafts of items, then I use my phone and take the photos. For some people, it's the opposite. For some people, they found they were doing a lot better if they take the photos first and then they do the draft. Or trying listing at different times of the day helped me a lot. And honestly, for sometimes I found when listing, it's best. The temptation is to have a YouTube show up, but for me, it was best to have kind of like a ADHD music, which is kind of very trancey music. And for some reason, it actually makes me list a lot better, even though it's boring music, because it kind of cleared out my brain. But trying all those things, because it's like, yeah, putting numbers on a piece of paper feels good, and I get that. But for me, the biggest struggle is listing, and I haven't cracked that nut.
I don't, and I don't think a lot of people have. I think that's the other thing is you don't want to be too hard on yourself with your goals, because you want to be able to go, okay, if this doesn't work, try something different. Like Lisa's actually going, I grab things that are similar and take pictures of 8 to 10 at a time and then sets up the draft. So she does the reverse way of things. Adrian does the drafts first and the photos later. I do the drafts first and then the photos come later. Have to take the photos first. So yeah, it's all whatever way works out for the best for you. It's like Muskid goal was to get 200, met that this week. Yay, good for you. Next goal is 250. So as long as you've got the inventory and things like that, I could probably get to 1,000 if I did nothing, even just in the next week. If I did nothing except grab stuff that's behind me, like you, I've got those boxes. Like you've got up beside you there. Which direction are you? There you are. Beside you, those tubs. I have tubs like that are filled with tiny things. And one of the challenges I had in the past week and a half, because as the new year started, I got, I have to get rid of big things. And then I end up doing something. And literally today, one of the things that we just listed is I had this stupid little thing sitting beside me. It was little, it was from a baggie that I had. And these are only like 2-inch tall Christmas ornaments. And so these do not get me lots and lots of room.
Yeah.
But I listed them yesterday and I sold them today for $50. And I'm happy that so I could easily get, but then now all of a sudden I am back to $698.
That's funny.
701, and damn it, it's kind of damn.
I know. I didn't want to fail. Damn it. Again, it's funny how our brains work, eh? And a lot of people are having great suggestions in the chat too. And I think the big thing is to try a bunch of things. One thing that actually worked that Rick did for me this year is he challenged me to list my Moorcroft
Yes.
vase.
Yes.
And it was sitting up there. Wait, over there. It's gone. You can guess why it's gone. And that was Rick, right? Because like Rick was putting out that pumpkin.
I was gonna say, guess why it's gone? Because you moved it.
Because he did that pumpkin thing, and I said, okay, if you do the pumpkin thing, I'll sell the vase, and that worked. So you never know what's gonna work.
I love this. I love this comment from Greg though. Start your listing day with a pricey good item. That's actually a really interesting way to look at something. Is starting something with like, okay, I need to make sure that the first thing I do. Now, pricey can be $50 to you. It doesn't mean it's got to be a $250 thing. But that might be the way to say, well, I'd like to at least, or start your week, maybe not even your day, because a lot of people are doing this on a part-time basis, is starting it on this week. First thing I'm going to do is find something that's worth this much money or something that's this big. And we're kind of crossing into the sort of areas right now like this, which is like trying something new that you hadn't really thought of before. And that's sort of part of that. It's like kind of a goal is to try something new that you hadn't thought about. And that's actually a good one. Trying something new for me would be to literally, because I say it and I say it and I say it, but I don't do it, is list something. I really like Greg's. I'm gonna think about that now. I'm gonna say first thing I'm gonna do every like couple of days, because I'm trying to list daily, but every day I'm gonna try and find something that's a $50 item. That's at least easy to find, because I don't want to have to spend the next 3 hours searching for something.
Yeah, and sometimes what I'll do is if I get stuck, like, you'll have like a week and you haven't listed anything. Sometimes I'll start with something easy. So like I have this 3D puzzle, but it's sealed, right? So there's no work. So sometimes I'll pick something like this just to get the engine going, so to speak. That'll work sometimes, but it's something new. Try something new.
Bob does the most expensive first, yeah. Sherry just decided to take off her earrings, and her husband just told her she was wearing two. Tell her she's wearing two different ones. I hope you weren't on your Whatnot show doing that. Elise saying, it's hard for me to list and post. I've been ill since mid-November, and I teach full time. I get home and I'm worn out. It's harder to take pics when you're exhausted. No, Elisa, that is true. And there's a lot of people there's lots of stuff going on in life. There's lots of challenges that people have to deal with of all sorts of different kinds. There's mental exhaustion or things like that. So I guess the goal for you, Elisa, would probably be something to say, since you are doing that, is what's one thing that you can do every other day? That might be a different way of looking at it. It's like every other day, I just want to write up a draft, or I just want to create a cell similar using eBay. Or I just want to cross list one thing. So something that may only take 5 minutes of your time, because the nice thing about finding I actually have found is when I get into, I'm only going to do this one thing right now, it somehow turns into sometimes, and now I've been listing for an hour.
Man, I when that happens, I wish I could just take what happened there and just copy and paste it. It's so rare. It's like at the end of the day, I listed 20 things. It's like, how did I do that? I don't know.
Well, I have goals that I've set. I started doing these goals last year. It's like, because I was terrible with this. I used to always go and do our shows that were our Thrift It or Throw It shows or our Baggy Wall hauls. Yeah. And I do those shows and I'd show you guys all this stuff. And literally, it would be sitting here until the next Tuesday show. I wouldn't have done anything with it. So even in the past week, I've been listing stuff from the Baggy Wall haul and the Thrift It or Throw It. So those two things are now in, and I started working on that as we went into the fall. It was like, if I do a show and I've shown people stuff that I've thrifted or thrown it has to, I'm now even trying to get to the point where I'm getting the draft ready for something I'm going to show on Thrift It or Throw It.
Yeah.
So that once the show's done, I almost may have 5 or 10 things ready to list. Yeah. Because again, when I'm out doing Thrift It or Throw It or Baggy Wall hauls, I'm looking for stuff all the time, and I'm bringing it home and I'm putting it in boxes so that I can do a YouTube show with it for you guys. So It's just something new that I started last year. That's actually getting into more of a thing. And the Rick's actually got a point. We're also doing much more of a, here's our donate box, here's our max sold box, here's our whatnot boxes, so that we can, when we're going through stuff, because I am finding, as I said, sort of already, yeah, we've got stuff that is in our store that I looked at and went, I got 40 items that are all from one thing that I pieced apart 5 years ago. I sold way more than that. It was a couple of Christmas things where I broke them down, and they were all just individual people for all these different Christmas series. And I probably sold $500 from them. But right now I'm selling 2 a year.
Yeah, and then you have to decide, is it worth keeping it or?
And it's tiny.
Yeah.
But it's 100 items in my store are like these tiny little $9 things. So again, it's like you said, though, I don't mind if it's something quick, easy to list, and easy to ship and all those sort of things. But I'm still trying to go through part of it. And this is kind of our next one, which is I wanted to talk about, which is that you really need to do more than once a year. Is that's where your inventory time comes into play. And I think a lot of people should start taking the time now to go and start going, it's time for inventory. It's time for me to look at what I got and figure out what the heck I'm going to do with it. So how do you do inventory on a regular basis, Carl? Do you do it once a year, or how do you even do an inventory?
So not really. I just use the I estimate how much is in there. For inventory, making notes before the show is like, okay, what have I changed in my inventory system? And not a lot. I'm pretty happy with what I have. Basically, what I have is what a lot of people have, which is named bins, and I'll put anything in the same bin. And so at the back of the basement, I just have all numbered bins, and then when something sells, I can quickly see it. My inventory system is actually pretty good. I think for me, the unlisted inventory, I try to do it doesn't go into one of the bins unless there's a really good reason, especially for the longer term storage. Because what I do is I keep a notepad, and so if I have something similar, like, I don't know, Fisher Price, if I feel there's enough to make a lot, I'll put it in one of my inventory bins that's not listed. But I have a list of which bin that is in, so all the Fisher Price go in the same spot, and that helps to prevent the store it and forget it aspect that definitely happens, and I still have a problem with for inventory. The other big thing is with inventory is try to touch it once kind of thing.
Right.
But it can be difficult. It's not the best. But I've wasted a lot of time and energy not moving stuff around. So now, we were talking about before the show, sometimes it can be really hard to buy stuff that you know is good, but you have stuff at home that isn't being listed. Like, hey, I'm in that ball game too.
Well, no, I still buy all that. I keep buying it for sure. Adrian has never done inventory. Now, I know that's true. Sandy did it and managed it all in one day on New Year's Day and only had one issue. That's amazing. That's really good. Holly's been checking her inventory numbers and almost done. That's really good. I said, one of the things that Carl, and you said this, and we tried this at one point too. So I'm gonna bring up when you're doing. I make sure everybody's doing this because I don't know if people do, but yeah, what I think what you're saying, Carl, and I do is we have bins. We have all these plastic bins. Now, what we've done is we have tried to stay with 3 types of bins that we can commonly get and get repeats of, so that they can easily stack on top of each other, or they can easily stack beside each other. That we've measured how they fit in shelves. So we don't have these strangely awkward places. And it took us a little bit to get to there, but we have a bin that we buy at Home Depots, and they're available in Home Depots both in Canada and the US. There's a certain style of bin, and we have 2 different sizes of that. And then actually at Home Depot, because we found these cheaper than we did at the dollar store, we buy these little clear plastic shoe boxes.
Yeah.
And then there's a little one that's a little bit larger. And the clear plastic ones used to be 88 cents a piece, and the bigger ones were like $1.48. And we have a bunch of those. And we throw a sticker that we the kind you get on a computer that we just write a sticker on it, and we'll write, this is label A1, A2, A3. We have some boxes that we're labeling, this is just Etsy. We try and put all our flat stuff in boxes, and it's flats 1, flats 2, flats 3. At one point, and then we make sure that when we're building it, that when we go to our eBay page and we're building our drafts, that we use the custom label.
Yeah, and I recommend anyone who's brand new to eBay start doing this right away. You think, why do I know where the item is? Why do I need to do this? Believe me, I've seen people get too far down the listing and then they like, oh, I know where that is. But then you watch them and they spend like 20 minutes trying to find the item where they know where it is. It's like, this is very simple. There's no real cost with it. Start with this. You'll be so much happier. And like you say, get standardized stuff. I like clear bins just so I can easily see how much stuff is in there. And it makes it easier to, on occasion, if you skew something, it makes it a little bit easier sometimes to find it if you can actually, as you're going along, you kind of see what's in the boxes. I prefer the clear ones myself.
And the thing is that was eBay. I'm just showing you our Etsy listings page right now, just to show you. And there you'll see right underneath every name. Wait, oh, I did that one wrong way around. Over here. Underneath the name of the item, it says EP6 cross list, EP flats cross list. This one doesn't have a stock, and it's so easy to do. All we have to do is go into here, and then when we're going into the inventory, underneath the inventory side on Etsy, there is price and quantity and add SKU. Now, what somebody else mentioned on something like this was, well, what do I do with my Facebook listings? And it's like, well, what you can actually do is just type your own little thing on the bottom that says SKU and put it on there if you're cross-listing something to multiple platforms so that you know where it is, or you're put it in a box and call it your Facebook box. One thing that we tried doing, it sounds like you do this, Carl. We tried and we gave up. Rick did not like it.
Right.
I think actually, I can't remember who came up with it. I either came up with it or Rick came up with it, and one of us did not like it for inventory. Which was, we were trying, I think I'm the one that came up with it, and Rick said, to hell with you. I was trying to do things like only put the mid-century modern stuff in here and only put the Fisher Price stuff in here. This is a box for toys, just toys. This is a box that's only going to have this in it. And I had somebody who actually I was talking with recently, and they were like, well, I've got all this fabric. And I'm not going to name the person, but they're in our craft group. And they were talking about the fabric they have. And they said, well, they got to organize it all by color in order to find it. And it's like, that's one of the things I was trying to do too, organize stuff by color. And it's like I'm in a damn Salvation Army and setting up all the shelves in there. These are all blue. And it's like, why don't you just put the mugs where the mugs are? I hate that I have to go down 9 aisles to look at mugs in 9 aisles, because this is the blue aisle. This is the green aisle. This is
a Salvation Army.
Oh, yes.
I hate that.
But that's what I was trying to do. And this person, and I said, you know what? If you have a box and you list that box as box 1, and you put in a green, a blue, a red, and a pattern, you'll know it's in box 1. You don't have to have 10 green things only in box 1. So don't try to be too precious with what you do with inventory. I know one of the other things I was saying at one point was, don't put anything breakable in with anything non-breakable. It was the most ridiculous that.
I think it's a waste of space too, because you want to fill your boxes as much as possible. What you don't want is a half-filled box. So now I do have some exemptions, like for mugs. I have one shelf that just has like all my teacups and mugs and stuff. I don't bother putting those in the bins. Also for board games, like obviously will not fit. So I have one of my SKUs is shelf, but I can find the stuff that's on the shelf because it's usually big, or it's a book. Like I'll put books like on my bookshelf, and it's not that big a deal.
I'm just gonna yell down to Rick. Can you bring me up the shoebox and a plastic box? They're at the back of downstairs. The black.
It is kind of boring, but inventory.
Plastic shoe boxes from Home Depot
Will save you so much time. You just do it right in the first place, and the cost isn't that high. And like and try and get all the same shelving and stuff like that. Like I always try and get the same shelving. Those make your life easier. Yeah, I would like I have seen other people do what you said, which is like order a per item, but I don't really understand the purpose of that. Like to me, that just it takes more time. Like when I have sales on eBay, there's all the SKUs right there. I have a little pad of paper. I just go to the SKU and then I can quickly. It's so much faster just going like that. But teach their own. I prefer that. Even with postcards, I know with postcards sometimes people organize it by type. Even then I just have it by like a bag and I'll have like the little inventory number in it just to
Yep, and I just want to show so the ones I get at Home Depot, these are the 2 sizes that I get at Home Depot.
Yeah.
And they're actually normally in a box in the middle of the storage aisle. And these used to be 88 cents. I think they're $1 now, which is actually cheaper than the dollar store. But the thing is, all of ours are like this now. So I've got these, and the great thing about them is when you've got one on top of the other, they sit really nice when you're stacking them.
Yeah.
So, like, that's the part of the reason that even doing that is try and get consistency in them. And then that way you can stack them on top of each other depending on how they fit into shelves. So those ones are directly from Home Depot. Let me just see what else. A couple of comments in here. Lisa saying her storage is more organized than her listed inventory. You have 14 rolling stainless racks, 6 shelves on each. Well, plus Lisa has, I think, probably 8 or 9 filing cabinets filled. Like she has to have organization down to a T to some degree because she sells sewing patterns and sewing patterns. She has hundreds of sewing patterns. So that's the thing is to make sure that it sounds strange, but it's like we have that section like you do, Carl, too. That's like we have a place that's back in the back down in our solarium. It's like solarium. Yeah. We have board game shelf because you don't need to, like, if I sell a board game, I know it's big. It's on the board game shelf. Yeah. We have 3 or 4 different places where we have shelves in our basement, which is inventory that we've ended up getting big multiples of. So we literally have it in furnace room. Why? Because we have 150 of that item. Yeah. So we don't need to put a box for it. We just know that all of our stock that has multiple quantities is all kept in the one room. Yeah. So it's easier to do that. You don't have to put individual ones. So Adrian is saying he has detail box, Herald box, Tempo box. So yeah, so he's got his boxes set aside as well. Kendra tried pre-boxing them before you put them into inventory and took up way too much space. You know, I saw there's a YouTuber who was doing that. They were packing everything as they put it into inventory. And I just thought that was, if it works for you, great. But I just thought, I would have 700 things packaged up right now, of which 400 of them have not even got a 0 view in a year. Like, why did I spend the time packing it up so that I could save time when I sold it?
Yeah, I get the appeal, but it takes up way too much room, and you have stuff using up supplies that could be sitting there for years. Like I like to have a list of all my boxes, just like that, and so I quickly know what I have. Saves a lot of time.
Lisa uses store boxes. This is something I have heard of, is Elephant Tracks is like a QR code. I just don't really know if you need to go that far. I looked into that at one point, which is these QR codes you can put on every item when you bag it, and then you're scanning the code. But to me, again, I just go drop it in a box called One, and it's in the box called One.
Yeah, anything simple for me.
I don't actually code individual items. So when I've done a bunch of stuff, literally like yesterday, we went through, did a bunch, and as each one was being finished, Rick was taking it, putting it downstairs in the box, and then adding the code into the stock line. So it said, the SKU said EP16, it went into EP16. And so there's nothing on the actual item that does that, because when we do inventory, which we're now getting into, is we actually are going through that as part of our inventory and going, we have stuff in these boxes that isn't listed. What happened?
That
We
I
just
have
couldn't-
that happen too. Yeah.
Huh?
So sometimes, like when I get out a new box to put inventory in, I double
Okay,
check
you're
everything
coding the
back.
tote to do that. Sorry. Sorry, go ahead, Carl.
Well, I'm just saying, like I've had inventory disappear off eBay. Usually, what I do is like when I get out a new tote, like one I've used before that already has a little tiny bit of inventory in, I check to make sure everything that's in there, A, I still want listed online, but B, is actually online. And sometimes actually at that point I will donate stuff. I will end list things at that point, but I'm not going to proactively go through all my inventory and end list things. I'll just do it when I bring out the tote. Like if something's like no one's buying it, no one ever's going to buy it, it goes into my little donation box, and but I'm not going to go and do that without a purpose because I found it wasn't worth my time.
I don't know who this person is. Do you know who the flipping sports guy is?
Yes.
He says your chat is bringing nothing to the party.
Hey, that's because my little chat has only a few people.
Oh, your chat on your
My
channel.
chat on my channel, yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
All the cool kids are in your channel.
He's speaking.
Yeah.
I thought, am I talking too much? Because that's a. Let's see. Andrew says he pre-boxed a smaller or breakable item. Well, that's a good idea. Yeah. Smaller ones. I don't know, Andrew, if you actually wrap them or you just sort of pre-box them to put into places. So, Adrian or Michael said if I had space, I put labels on different boxes on the wall, and then shipping off of the listing within the item. Okay, yeah, that's it's just it's a really good thing just to start making sure that you actually are doing inventory, seeing what you got there. And again, what we're doing now is one of my goals is week by week, because we did a bit of last year. We sort of spent January in inventory, and then June we inventoried. My goal is now, one of my other goals is every week to go through 2 boxes just to see that what is in them is listed, because we have 70 or 80 boxes. So 2 boxes a week will get me through towards the end of the year. And then this is something that's in the shipping area. Have a box for any item you're planning to list before you list it. So I will jump from our inventory thing over to our shipping side of things, which Rick just sort of preempted, which is it's time to talk shipping. And that basically in the box world is keep your eyes open for all sorts of ways to do shipping that you may not have thought of before, all sorts of places to get shipping stuff. But yes, especially if you're new, you want to make sure that you've got the box to send the thing in beforehand so that you don't end up in a panic. We used to do this all the time. I don't know if you ever did this, Carl. Did you ever do that? Did you list stuff, sell it, and then go, oh my God, I have no box to fit that at all?
Well, that happened this week.
Oh, did it?
But I knew it was going to happen. So the worst case scenario is you have to Frankenbox, which means taking two boxes and putting them together. So I had I sold one of the presents, spoilers for next month's selling show, but I sold one of the President's Choice railroad sets, and they're big. I had nothing but so I had to take 2 boxes and Frankenbox them together. But for boxes, I'm pretty nerdy about it. So these are all the boxes I always keep, and see all the stuff here.
Yeah.
This is what I keep trying to get you or Rick to do, is if you have boxes that you get from other people, break them down and then write the size of the box and write it on and label the box. Otherwise you get, I like to call it the mountain of boxes, which takes up so much room, and you'll never use any of the boxes because you don't want to go through the mountain of boxes. Nerd. You will never go through that mountain of boxes and find the right box. But if you have the boxes, you might actually use them.
Donna had the Frankenbox.
But do it.
Adrian's Frankenbox. Yeah. Well, no, but again, part of it is just like what we're doing is we have had things in the past. It's usually with larger items or awkward items that I just saw. That's my biggest recommendation. But for new people who are just getting into it, because we have some people who may be watching this afterwards or maybe even live now. There's a lot of people who joined our craft group, the Canadian Resellers and Fantastic Thrifters Group, also known as the Crazy Resellers. And if you're not a member of it, please feel free to join us over here. Just go into Facebook and look up Canadian Resellers. And we've had a lot of people joining in the past 6 months. I think we've actually got close to 800 or 900 members almost in the past 6-8 months. So huge. And a lot of people, though, that are going in there, we're asking what platforms do you list on as one of the questions. And we're getting, I'd say probably 25% of the people who only do Facebook right now. They've never done eBay or Etsy or Poshmark or whatnot or any other platform. And so that's with something like that, shipping supplies is really key to think about what is it that you're going to sell so that you don't end up with that panic and you don't put like a giant guitar, or I guess I'll move this because people are saying this dog is freaking people out. This chalkware dog. I will move the chalkware dog away, and I will move the chalkware dog away, and I will put up my Stay Golden votive candle. So that I've got the Golden Girls there, and then I'll just reach over here and I'll put Blanche Devereaux over there beside the Golden Girls so that everybody doesn't feel as freaked out by the dog with the sad-eyed dog. But he will stare from the bottom there. Just
anywho, shipping.
Back to shipping. But finding something and going, well, I'm selling a guitar for an Xbox, and it's like, great, I sold it. And now, if you've never Frankenboxed, or it's like, no, you've really got to figure out what you can do in advance. So especially if you've got small things, it's like, make sure if you're selling something small, like a little Pee Wee Herman, that you've got some boxes that will fit them. Go to your Dollarama, dollar store. A lot of those places we found, people told us that they don't mind giving you the boxes. Some are really nasty and they won't, but other ones do. We've actually had boxes from our vets because they get deliveries all the time for all the supplies that they have, and they're free. Or go and order some. And if you order them, you can go to places like the Costco for Business or Costco Business Centers, which there are some of them in Canada. They have a thing right now, which is a video on our craft group about that. And they had 6x6x6 boxes for 30 cents a piece, and you can buy them in batches of 25. The other thing to think about on the shipping supplies thing is, and this is where I feel free to try and do this in craft, if you are in a city that you want to check with other people about doing something, like ordering something, for example, from a place like Uline or another box manufacturer, put a post in craft or put a post on Facebook even, or ask your friends, is there anybody who wants to go in with me on this and split a bunch of things? Because I don't need 100 of this, or I don't need 50 boxes. But if we buy 100 boxes and there's 4 of us, we could all take 25 boxes a piece and get a discount. So that's just one of the things that I think people should try and take another look at. Ordering from some of the cross-border shippers in Canada, or using the free supplies that you can get for USPS in the States. But don't use them the wrong way, which is you don't use free envelopes as stuffing and stuff like that for stuff. Get bubble wrap if you can from large, like, look for sales. But again, look on Facebook Marketplace, Kijiji, and Craigslist. We just bought, I think it was 350 boxes from somebody who shut down a t-shirt business, and we bought them for about 8 cents a piece, and they were perfect size, like 8x6x5 boxes, like sort of thing that we would have spent a lot more money on. I got them all for like $50, something like that. So
yeah, I've done that as well. Bought from garage sale, like someone had a ton of poly mailers, bought a bunch that way. I think if you don't have one already, a thermal printer is a really good investment. I highly recommend that. It'll save you a lot of time and money. And it's funny, I saw the flipping sports guy there. One thing I learned from him this year is, like, when I send those postcards in envelopes and I would glue the back to keep the envelope down. And he was just using the label from the address and using that to glue the back of the envelope. I was like, mind blown. So we're always learning new ways to do it. I think the other big thing is if you don't have them, shipping policies is really, if you don't have that in 2023, do shipping policies in 2024. It's going to make your life so much easier, especially as you have more experience of what the shipping costs really are. Try and go from calculated to policies.
Well, that's where you and I differ, because we do everything without shipping policies. We do everything as flat rate shipping. So,
well, yeah, shipping policies is flat rate shipping.
Well, it is, but we don't have to set anything up that way. We just basically set it up as here's our flat rate for shipping. We don't worry about calculated shipping because I don't want to have to think about weight or well, you have to think about the weight of something, but I don't necessarily want to think about the weight and the size and everything. So I have a basic understanding about, I can put this up. I go, this is going to be my $6 thing. This is going to be my $10 thing. This is going to be my $15 thing. But again, that's something to keep in mind as well as we're getting into the shipping and stuff for 2024 is shipping rates are going to start going up again too. So you got to keep those kind of things in mind because everything's going up and you're going to be getting to the point where it's more expensive. And that actually is sort of another point we're going to go into, which is pricing strategies. When you're thinking about doing your pricing for the year, it's one of those things where you might have to, and Rick actually put it in here, subsidize your shipping. And the reason that we're looking at something like that is because you don't want to be, in our opinion, you don't want to be putting out $9 items with $20 shipping, because it's going to be harder for people to try and look at something like that. We had somebody who recently in the craft group was literally saying that they're getting no sales, and I looked at their prices and they had $40 and $50 shipping showing up for items that were $9 and $10 and $20.
And sometimes people don't know that you can change. Like if you're in Canada, you can say ships to a zip code, and just double check your store quickly to see if there's anything unusual. Because I have seen that happen where people don't realize it costs that much to the United States because they're just always looking at from the .ca or the inverse of that.
Yeah, or sign into, don't sign into your eBay. Go into eBay or Etsy as a guest and look up your item.
Yeah, you'll be surprised how many times you see mistakes.
You'll see, you'll be able, because you can search for things, or you can search for a store and you can look up stuff, but you'll be able to see what are people charging? What am I charging for the shipping on things? And this is a commonality all over. I mean, I've dealt with this with people who've been doing this for 10 or 15 years. Julie Kaufman, who's not in here tonight, but she actually at one point we were going through her store and I kept saying to her, you've got stuff sitting in here. And I said, you've got it shipping from San Francisco to New York and it's $57 and it was for a plush that was only this big. And she's like, how did it do that? I said, I don't know, but I'm just letting you know, if I was shopping for that, it's like all of a sudden you're off my list for shopping. So that's part of the pricing strategy. I think to a degree, a little bit on that pricing strategy idea as well is think about making sure you're paying yourself, you're making money. So as we said at the beginning, we're crossing a little bit back and forth, but we're trying to make sure that we're going for bigger amounts of profit, or the lower priced items, kind of like the postcards that Carl was talking about and the other person that was in here was talking about, is we actually don't mind selling $6, $7, $8, $9, $10 items when we're paying 10 cents a piece for them. When they're easy to list.
Or they just go in one of these things.
Or they go in an envelope, they're really quick, they're all that sort of thing. We're having I think it's I don't know. I'm not sure what it is. We're getting box top. 8x8 by 6, 8x8 by 8, it's 2 square. 8x6 by 4, 8x6 for more. It's just like
is this everyone's favorite box? Because
I guess it's their favorite box size. I think 8x6 by 4 is probably 8x6 by 4 is probably ours. So when you're doing your pricing strategy, the other thing to think about, and this is one of the big ones we're doing right now, we're putting our items in, and automatically in my mind, I'm going, I can take 10 to 20% off this price and sell it. And the reason I'm doing that is because in eBay and in Etsy, I allow offers on items. And if I'm going to allow an offer on an item, that's one thing. But also in eBay, I get people watching. eBay tells me it just did. I had 70 offers I could send out. And some of them were things that literally got listed 3 hours ago. And although my price, I think, is good, if I can flip something and sell it for $5 cheaper than I listed it for right now, it's at $50, and I can put an offer out for $45 and it goes, I'm happy. I am not focusing so much on, I've got to be this is my strategy. You don't have to do it. I'm not focusing so much on I'm the guy with the highest price, and whenever I list it, forget it. However long it takes to sell it, I'm going to sell that for $500. It's like, I have a couple of those things. My original 1929 telegram to Betty Davis from her agent at the night after her opening play is listed for $250, and I'm not letting it go for under $250. Right. But it's like, I just don't want, I could probably flip it for $20, but I'm not going to let it go. But generally, if I've got something that we even list for $149, I'm ready to send out an offer of $125, literally like in a day, because I want to sell. I don't want to list and sit. That's part of my big pricing strategy, is list it and sell it.
Yeah, I think, for me, that's probably being one of my weaknesses. I always want top price. Should be called a greedy, lazy reseller in a way. But like, for example, I don't do best offer on my listings because I don't like getting the notifications and having to go back and forth. I just want pay my price or go away. But I know I'm the vast minority of that. When I do pricing and there's a lot of comps that I can look at, comparables, I try to sell about 90% of the highest, but I also account for this higher shipping cost in Canada and just go do it blindly. And then I'll drop by 10% every few months, that price. But also when I send out the offers, I'll also usually send out 10%, and that usually spurs on sales. I think
you're saying as long as you're still making a profit, and this is one of the key things, though. I think a lot of people just realize the profit they're making could be $1 or $2, and the amount of time and effort that's put into shopping, listing, photographing, packing, shipping to make $1, that's still $1 in profit. But at the end of the day, you're not paying yourself anything. And that's the thing about being a reseller. You want to, it's not your, unless you want to do it for fun and not real profit, and you want to buy $10 stuff and sell it for $15, and you end up making $1 or $2. You got to remember, your packaging, your shipping is costing you money. Your gas is costing you money. All your time is costing you money. So it's got to be a good profit. It's got to be one that you're happy with. So whatever one you're happy with. And I just wanted to show, because Carl was mentioning it, if you are in here, this is eBay. You can not allow offers. It's really easy. You click on this. We're doing this on our desktop, obviously. But this is the big one for us. This is something that's $24. If I was going to put offers on this, I will not allow a minimum offer. I will set a minimum offer of $18. And the reason I do that is so I don't get $1 offers, because I don't like the going back and forth. So I set that, and then at least if I get an offer, it's got to be over $18. If somebody puts an offer in of $2, they'll just get a bounce back saying this offer has not been accepted. So eBay's takes it out of the way of a back and forth. Now you can put that down $1 less than you want, but we set it usually at about 20-25% below the top that we're doing. And a lot of times we won't add the offers in until something's been up for a little while. So
yeah, you have to do what you're comfortable.
What I was just saying. Yes, that's what I set the threshold, Rick. So even when you're not here, you still manage to not listen to me. I think we got a couple more because we're hitting the hour mark. I think one of the two big ones that I just want to go to, and Carl had this, which I thought was a really good one, is connection.
Oh yeah.
So what do you mean about connections?
So I mean connections with other resellers or friends who can hook you up and do the ask. Sometimes we're not good, but some of my really good stuff from the past year was actually selling things for other sellers, because then not all resellers want to deal with everything. And by making it clear that you want to do that, it can be good. Now, I'm not talking about necessarily when you do consignments. I won't do consignments unless it's someone like where I have my booth. I'll do consignments there because I'm there anyways. And a lot of stuff that has been in the store for a long time do better online. But I found the work required is so much lower than anything else. Then in some ways, those have been some of my best returns have been on that. So one of my big sales for this last show was for a Starbucks mug. That was consignment. I gave him the guy his money today. He was so happy, and I'm going to get more stuff from that. And because of that, there's no work, because now I can get an inventory that for whatever reason he doesn't want to do. It's not garbage inventory, but if you can work on those connections. When I've talked to other resellers, some of their best buys have been the connections.
Yeah, Lisa says she has other resellers who know what she's looking for, and they actually are pickers.
Exactly. I've seen people buy something in the store, and they sold it to another reseller, saying, "Do you want this?" And you know, I'll scratch your back, you'll scratch mine a bit. Might be going on there too, but it is awkward. You know?
Adrian has a list of Toy Soldier buyers who follow, so he's sold for other folks as well. So
yeah.
We actually, our connection kind of thing, surprisingly, I never really thought too much about it, but is making sure your neighbors know what you do. Don't be embarrassed about it. We actually have started talking it up over the past year or two after COVID, and we actually have now had a number of neighbors who've called us up about getting rid of stuff for them. And it's sort of consignment in one aspect. In other aspects, it's just like, oh, well, can you buy this? So I just ended up buying, like, literally one guy's his two kids. They wanted to get rid of all their Pokemon cards.
Oh yeah,
so they said, "Hey, do you want something like this?" And it's like, "Yep." And I made an offer, and I bought like 3,000 Pokemon cards. So it's things like that, are just those connections that you have. We do some consignment as well. We do consignment for our max sold, and it's worked out okay. We've had a couple people come back and say, "Oh, well, I as long as you're making money on it," and people realize that if you're going to be paying 50%, because I see Donna says she sells on garage sale for 20 people with a 50-50 split. The challenge is a lot of people don't want to pay you 50. They want like the 80 or 90%. It's like, I'm sorry, if I'm the one advertising it, selling it, photographing it, shipping it, putting it in a max sold, any of that kind of stuff, you're getting 50%. That's if you want to do all that rest of the stuff yourself, go for it. But if you you don't do consignment for 10%. Like
God, no. I would not do it for less than 50. But even then, I really
buy it outright.
I usually buy it outright. And when I'm talking about connections, is often I'm talking about with other sellers or people who have big collections or that sort of thing, rather than the one-off kind of, because those can be awkward or just not worth your time. Because often I found it's like, okay, well, I have to go there. They have one or two things. Then we talk about the 50%, and then I have to go back and pay them, and blah 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 blah. But making connections with other resellers has really paid off, and it's great too, because a lot of them are my friends, so it's really good as well. But don't be embarrassed about bringing that stuff up, because sometimes a lot of other resellers don't want to sell on eBay, or they have stuff they just don't want to deal with, and you don't mind dealing with it. Yeah, it's a gray. You can't really say with consignments to do it or not with a simple rule set. You have to kind of.
And Elisa's got a really good. I hate this too. People who put an eBay printout at a garage sale and say it's $200. It's like, you want $200? You list it, you sell it, you ship it, you photograph it, you do all that kind of stuff. People don't realize a lot about that sort of stuff. We've hit the hour, and I know we didn't cover everything in essence, but I think we covered a lot of things to think about. The key ones, I think, is that we want everybody to sort of think about some goals to set for yourself, and that goal could be a weekly goal. It could be a listing number. It could be a dollar sign. It could be like, I'm only going to go to the thrift store once a week. Like any of those, they're all goals. They're all kind of New Year's resolution goals. Think about those goals. think about trying something new that you may not have tried before. And one of the big ones that this is where we're going to hit you up on that. Think about doing something like cross-listing. Crosslist Magic, which we've talked about before. We have a video on it. We have a link on it here. Allows you to cross-list to all of these different places. And again, we've had probably a good few $100s in sales since we started on this, because all you need to do is, if you have an account on eBay, Etsy, Grail, Mercari, Poshmark, you can cross-list with a click. And this is literally what I mean by this, is you can actually go into your eBay store, pick an item, and that item, you can add it to Etsy, Facebook, Instagram, Poshmark, and Vinted if you're still in the US, and it will bounce them all into drafts immediately. And there is nothing, I don't think, these days faster than being able to find a sale you got on a different platform with literally, it's something you already had for sale. You had it for sale on Etsy or on Poshmark or on eBay, and all you did was go click one or two things off, and you get a sale on a platform you're not used to. That will convert you. I think that's really converted me. And that's part of the try something new. We tried this new thing. We hadn't done cross-listing before. If you do use the promo code, you get 3 months, 50% off. So it's $9.99 a month. So it would be $5 a month. You get 7 days for free, and you can try it literally for no charge. You can just try it and go and say, oh, I've got an Etsy store. I've got an eBay. Oh, let me just try and see what happens when I cross-list. And there's a video on that as well. That's, I think, the try something new. But think about your stuff when you're out in your thrift stores. Think about what's new for you to thrift. Think about areas that you may want to go into that you didn't think about before. Think about if you've avoided clothes. Maybe you should think about. But we're gonna start next week. We're gonna have our first thrifting challenge for the rest of the month of January, and we're gonna try and do them every couple of weeks on the Craft Book Facebook group, which is going to be trying to focus on something that you may not have looked at before. Just to see if to get you out of your comfort zone a little bit, because there may be money that you could make easily in your market. There could be nobody in your market buying, for example, Fisher Price toys. So if we said your thrifting challenge is going to be find a Fisher Price toy, you're going to do a little bit of looking when you're at the thrift store or at a garage sale or at a flea market, and you may find one thing and go, like, we just sold a Fisher Price dog for $50. A little dog that we got in a baggie for probably a nickel. And we sold that in December for $50. And yesterday I sold the clown that was in the same bag for another $20.
Crazy.
And I wasn't necessarily a Fisher Price person. So Fisher Price was something that I now look at. I look at stuff, and I'm expanding my categories all the time. You can follow us on Instagram too. I just, for example, found out of a new kind of plush toy that I'd never heard about before because I was researching something. So look at those sort of things. Think about those goals. And as always, come back every Tuesday. We'll have something new to talk about. We'll talk about Crosslist Magic again. We'll talk about research. We might do a little bit more with some of our other videos. We're trying to get to those as well. Just keep expanding and keep resettling. And hopefully 2024 will be a better year for you than 2025. I hope it is for you, Carl. Now, Carl as well has started doing a podcast. I want everybody to know about that. So it is called the Reseller Evolution, and it's with Scott Sherman. Scotty's got his own YouTube channel too, right?
Yeah, he's awesome. We're trying this out. We'll see how long it goes, but if people can listen in and give us support, that'd be wonderful. We're working on the quality of the audio, but give us a chance.
So it's
something new. Something new to try this.
Off there on the side there. It's the third episode coming up this Friday. It's on Friday nights. You can get it on Spotify, called Reseller Evolution. And Scott, what's Scotty's YouTube channel name?
Oh no,
picking.
He changed it, so it's like Scotty Sells, I think. Oh no,
okay.
I'll
maybe it's on this. Go look at the Reseller Evolution on Spotify. So he's, I mean, there's one thing Carl's proving to not be as lazy. That's one of his goals for 2024 is to not be as lazy. So it's Carl, the mostly lazy reseller. Thank you again for joining us here on our show on the Hall Pass with 2DogDigs. We will see you again in our What Sold in January show coming up unless you decide that Tuesdays are someplace you want to spend more time with us. But otherwise, thanks to everybody beside us. Again, a special thanks to everybody over here in our chat who watches us on Carl's channel or watches us here, especially those of you who are Kennel Club members. We really do appreciate the support. See you here or in the craft group, and good luck in 2024. Thanks, Carl. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye. Take care.